Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal.
What the hell is that? Hey! Shut up! Don't look at me! I'm dominant!
Ryan, what are you doing here?
What am I doing here? What is all this?
I happen to own this place. It's a cat cafe. Now get out of here. You're making all my cats angry. That's why they're hissing.
Actually, frightened cats hiss, angry cats moan.
You can't open this place here. It's right next to my favorite bar.
Go to hell, Brian. You don't own this block. I'm not going anywhere.
Fine. But I'm about to become your worst nightmare.
No way. I've already had my worst nightmare. I've told you about my worst nightmare, right?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, boy. Get comfortable. Well, first, I'm driving through a forest, but it's actually inside, which is weird, right?
Okay.
There's all these people in the van who normally wouldn't know each other in real life. My second-grade teacher, my mom, Joe, but it wasn't quite Joe. So all the kids are yelling at me in German, and I understood them, but I don't speak German. And then SNL is starting, and I'm clearly in the cast, and I haven't been to any of the rehearsals, and all the cue cards are blank, and that show is all cue cards. And just as that's sinking in, I realize I'm also the musical guest. I mean, I can't pull that off. Who do I think I am, Silverchair? And the weird thing is, I have this dream
Wait a minute.
over and over.
Listening to
never
other
after
people's
I have
nightmares is my worst nightmare! Oh, thank God. I gotta shut down that cat place.
The pod bay doors are open. Thank you very much for joining us once again for our entry of into Shocktober. I'm your host, Doug Heller, film critic and film historian for TalkMovieToMe.com. Here, as always, standing patiently by the gate, waiting for his wife to show. Jerry Dean Roberts, film critic for ArmchairCinema.com, ArmchairOscars.com, and OverThinkingOscars.wordpress.com. Jer, how's it going?
Boo. I say that only because I don't speak Japanese.
So it's
I would like to, but
it's Shocktober, and it's my pick, which means it's a Japanese ghost story, and it's a damn good one.
Because of course it is, and it is a good one.
Kuroneko, Kuroneko, or Kuroneko,
yeah.
Loosely translates to black cat, which
Black
actually
cat in the bamboo garden.
Right, which actually made me think, gee, next year we should do Cat People and Return of the Cat People.
Wow. This is
yeah. How do you?
This is an experience because let's get right into this. The opening image of this film is kind of striking. It's a sort of an idyllic, peaceful little farm in Japan, and you're kind of standing on a hill, and then you're not sure what's going to happen.
Right.
Based on other Japanese films that you might have seen, you expect a woman to come out the door, with something in her hands, and she's farming or something. You're expecting some kind of domesticity. But instead, all of these men start pouring out of the forest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, dozens and dozens and dozens of men pouring out of the forest. And this is not good. Because this many people converging on an idyllic farm in any film is never good.
Yeah, no, they're either...
It's either invaders, or it's the bank, or it's zombies, or something.
Yeah. Somebody's coming, and they're up to no good. And
right.
I
was not expecting what happened.
Right, so right in the first few minutes of the movie, these two women are brutally raped and murdered, and their house set on fire.
Their house is burned down, yeah.
And
what effectively happens next is a 1970s rape and revenge movie.
Pretty much in 1968.
It becomes, for a while, I Spit on Your Grave or Miss 45 or something like that, where
I'd say
they're
I'd
murdered.
say it has more in touch with maybe the Virgin Spring, but you know,
Yeah, I know, you know what I'm saying. You know, the
which
template
became
is
the last
there.
house on the left.
Which is the template is there.
Yeah,
There's um, a group of slobbering monsters. They rape these women, and then the women come back and seduce and kill them one by one. It's just the
and they've
template is
decided
there.
they've taken a vow. They've made a pact with the god of hell, god of evil,
Mhm.
and that is to exact their revenge on samurai by drinking their blood one by one until all of the samurai's blood has been drunk. Which is
Bite
a
their
pretty
throats
good,
out.
yeah, which is a pretty good plan until the person that they'd been waiting for comes home from the wars. 3 years
Right.
previous, this young man had been taken off by the military to serve, and he had since kind of made his name.
Mhm.
And he came back to his hometown. He gets in good with the local lord, and he's sent to dispatch these ghosts, which he finds, he talks to, and he's like, "Hey, you look just like my wife and mom. I wonder why that is."
Wonder why that is.
Whatever. You're nice enough. I'm gonna go home. And and they are ripped apart because
Yeah, I
their
mean, really
their
messed up.
vow is to kill samurai, and now the person that they loved, that they were waiting for, her the woman's son and her husband, is a samurai.
Yeah.
And if they don't kill him, they go back on their vow and they have to spend eternity in hell.
Can we talk about the imagery of the cat?
We could talk about that for days. Yes, please.
The imagery of the cat is they have a black cat who goes away, and if you've ever if you've ever owned a cat that had access to outdoors, you know they disappear for a couple of days. They'll disappear and then they'll come back home. That's just the nature of a cat. But this cat goes away and then comes back, and these two women are dead. And there's a transference between them and the cat. And I got the sense that the cat brought them back to life in a
Yeah, in a
sense
way.
as
Yeah.
ghosts,
Yeah.
because their movements are very cat-like.
Well, aren't black cats supposed to, at least in Japanese culture, have some sort of a connection to the other world?
That's in a lot of cultures.
Yeah.
That's in a lot of cultures, but especially in the Japanese culture. But the great thing is, it's very subtle.
Mm-hmm.
It's subtle at times, not subtle at other times. There's a scene where she's drinking, and it's the most famous image in the movie. And she looks up over the bowl, and her face is very cat-like, and she's licking her lips.
Mm-hmm.
And it's letting you know that the cat has become part of this. Um, there's a scene where she's serving to a guest, and he briefly looks down, and she has fur on her hands.
Right,
And then he
right,
looks
right.
back, and the fur is gone. Um, there's um, there's just something about the way that their makeup is the way that their makeup is applied that looks very cat-like, but it's not overdone. It's not,
Right, right.
it's not in your face, but it's a very interesting way of conveying that.
Mm-hmm.
I was also the set design in this film is incredible,
Yeah, it is.
especially when they're walking through that forest, because the forest is shot mostly in black.
Mm-hmm.
And you see these black spaces between the trees behind them. And you have no idea what's in the forest.
Right.
It's this spooky kind of thing where it's like, you know, you're in the forest, but you don't know what's around you. It gives it an unpredictability. I love that. I love that about it.
Yeah. It's a fascinating thing. I love the fact that it kind of gets you into a pattern in the first 20 minutes, and you think, if this is the whole movie, this isn't going to be worth watching.
It's really two movies.
Yeah.
Because it starts with a revenge thriller, and then they kill all the samurai, and then it's sort of like the aftermath of what happened. It's sort of the aftermath of that. It's not what I expected. It's really not. It's because it's overturning the idea of the samurai as hero.
Right. Yes. Exactly. Because I love that part when he's explaining to the Lord exactly what's what, and he says, you know, they're ghost spirits, and they're killing and drinking samurai blood because they hate samurai. Well, why would they hate samurai? We're out there fighting and protecting for them and all this kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, the rich people, but not the peasants. And he goes, I don't even think of peasants as people. It's like, well, there's your problem right there.
There's your problem.
Like, bingo,
No.
you just said it.
You just stepped on it. Yeah.
That is why. You know, we're samurai. We could take what we want. It's like,
Yeah, that's the problem.
yeah, there's a big reason why that kind of structure fell apart.
Yeah. This is a fascinating movie. I wish I'd have gotten a chance to see it again, because you can't take it all in the first time around. This was the first time I'd seen it.
This was the second time I think I'd seen it. So, second or third. I love the atmosphere around it, and the way that the fog, when it comes in, it basically eliminates everything around it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is another one of those bright and shining examples of how to shoot in a soundstage without it looking like a soundstage.
Yeah. I didn't know it was a soundstage. I thought they were just out somewhere.
Yeah, 90% of Japanese movies are on sound stages.
I didn't know that.
From back in that time, yeah, 40s, 50s, 60s, virtually everything was on a sound stage, and you can kind of tell. Yeah, yeah.
I couldn't tell.
Kuron is almost entirely on a sound stage.
I as I was kind of mentally taking this in, it's kind of interesting that because the Japanese love genre films, and they still do, and it is unpredictable. You do not know where this movie is going.
No, and the fact that he can actually physically fight with them, and physically injure a ghost and cut off the arm, and it's not your typical ghost story.
It's not your typical revenge movie.
No, it's not your typical much of anything. And I love this. It's a slow burn, even though you're getting the meat of it really quickly.
And it's not a long movie.
No.
It's an hour and 39 minutes. It's not a long movie at all. But it goes by very quickly.
It does.
Because, I mean, half an hour, we're into the second act already.
Yeah, pretty much.
They don't waste a lot of time. When you get to those the revenge sequences, when they're killing those samurai, that doesn't take up a lot of time. They kind of, the director kind of says, okay, here's what's happening. It happens a couple of times, and you get the feeling, okay, they're going to go through and kill all of them.
Right.
But he doesn't spend a lot of time on it because it's like, okay, you know the pattern. They've been
Right.
killed.
He knows
They
you
come
don't
back.
need to spend a lot of time on it.
Right, right. You just get the major players.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I was caught up in the imagery. I just love the imagery in this movie.
Oh yeah.
I love how these two women stand out. They're always draped in white.
Mm-hmm.
Always. And against these gray and black, backgrounds, they just stand out. They're very ghost-like.
Right. It's all in white with floral patterns.
Mm-hmm.
The way that they walk ahead of the horses when they're leading them back to the grove.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They're virtually floating.
Mm-hmm.
And that one when she takes that puddle, she just
Yeah.
Careful,
Yeah.
there's a puddle. Like she just hovers
It's all
over it.
subtle. It's never in your face. It's
No.
never so broad that it's like, okay, there's an effect. No, it's very, very subtle.
And
I like that about it.
I love, in specifically with this, but in general, East Asian ghost stories. You don't spend any time going, oh, there's no such thing as ghosts. You're seeing things. That's impossible. That doesn't happen. Everybody, oh, you saw a ghost? Oh, well then there must be a ghost. Let's figure out how to get rid of it. It's like there's none of that time trying to discredit the person that saw it, and that saves a whole lot of time with the story.
Well, whose point of view is this? Because in most movies about samurai, it's the samurai point of view. But here, I never could figure out whose point of view this was.
It
Because the
feels more
ghosts
like
are
an
kind of
objective. It kind of feels like an objective third party. Like it's just we're just watching the story unfold, just as it goes, and because you sympathize very much for Jintoki, but you're never really allowed inside him, inside his head, inside his feelings. The only real bits of emotion that would be maybe lead to a point of view would be the ghosts, the wife,
Right,
Shinge.
because of what happened to them.
Shinge, yeah. So actually, I think it might be the cat's point of view.
The cat's just kind of on the outside. It's
Exactly.
kind of an omniscient observer.
Exactly.
Characters come in and you don't know their purpose, but you're wondering, okay, who is this going to be?
Mm-hmm.
That guy comes in. I forget his name. The guy with the mustache.
Oh, right, the boss, basically.
The boss.
Reiko?
Comes in. Yeah, and he's kind
Reiko?
of a douche.
He's an asshole. Yeah, serious
Yeah,
asshole. We
you're
take what
not
we
sure,
want.
but-
Peasants
Yeah.
aren't people. Yikes.
But it's like he actually, you get the sense he actually believes what he's saying. It's like
Oh,
you
there's
actually
no
believe
reason
this nonsense.
there's no reason to doubt that he doesn't. You know, that's his credo right there.
Yeah, yeah. This is an interesting film. I can't say that I'm versed in Japanese films, particularly Japanese horror films, which is why I like the fact that we got to do this and Quite On last year, because it's a strange trip.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite what I get from American films. And it also pulls me away from American horror films because as of late, American horror films have become, they're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I like something a little different.
Yeah.
I have a crazy relationship with horror anyway. There has to be a story involved. But more often than not, just the theatrics are employed, or trying to build a series, or trying to do this, or instead of just telling me a good ghost story, or telling me a good horror story. Too many of them get get waylaid, they get sidetracked with doing other things. That's why when we do the Turkey Month, when we do Shocktober, I'm very careful about the films that I pick
Mm-hmm.
because horror films have a tendency to be very personal.
Yeah.
This would have this. If I can watch this a couple of more times, I think would have the potential to be more personal.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get involved with this story.
You really do, and you feel for all three principles.
Mm-hmm.
The mother and the wife are bound by their vow to not say what happened. So they can't say to him, yeah, we got raped up and the house got burned down and now we're killing samurai because we're vengeful spirits. They're not technically allowed to say that. He kind of infers that, he gets to there, but you feel genuinely bad for this guy who just went away, got taken away from his family, and 3 years later comes back and is now a retainer for the samurai chief there, which is no small feat. He basically has what would be able to save them and bring them into a higher social structure, and they're gone. But they're not gone. He can see them. He goes there for a whole week and makes love to his dead wife, not her body, her ghost made into a person. But because of that sacrifice, because she was allowed 7 days to be with him without having to kill him, and then she was just going to be in hell for eternity after that because she broke her vow. She didn't kill the samurai. And the same thing happens to the mother.
Ain't the bitch that even in the afterlife, even after you've been brutally murdered and you go into the afterlife, there's still rules.
And you still have to work.
You still have to work.
What the hell?
That's some
That was
shit.
the ultimate retirement, but now I'm bound for eternity to have to, like, kill people? Like, what the hell is this?
What is the, life sucks, and then the afterlife sucks even worse because
I was
you're
promised
basically doing the same thing.
I was promised Elysian fields, not paperwork and
Not stealing
invoices.
them.
Yeah.
That was the through line. The whole thing. I was sitting there going, okay, wait a minute. They're dead, but there are rules that they have to follow, and there's still a pattern that they have to follow. That sucks.
Right, because if they don't, they spend eternity in hell. They can never come back out. Which, honestly, they're kind of living in hell as it is because they night after night they seduce and murder a samurai. I mean, thankfully, till death did they part, and she's not technically cheating on her husband, Gintoki, but
till death do you part, which means which means you can screw around in the afterlife, apparently.
I guess. Yeah, I really like this one. It kind of stood out to me above the other one of this director's that I was considering.
Onibaba?
Kanito Shindo, Onibaba, from 1964. Have you seen that one?
I have. Saw that one ages ago.
That one's a good one too. Very good companion piece, actually, to this.
It is.
So that one might end up being next year if I don't.
Shocktober. Yeah.
If I don't, I've been threatening it for years, but I may end up going with Hausu next year. I don't know.
We like to mix it up here in Shocktober. You're trying to go outside of the normal channels,
And you know what
I'm
the
trying
best part is? It's not that hard to do.
It's not. It's not. If you get off the beaten path, that's the problem with horror. Is too often people stay on the beaten path with
Mm-hmm.
horror, and you often find the same thing happening over and over and over and over and over again. Again, that's why my choices are always personal and a little bit nuts. I like horror films that go a little bit nuts. This one went a little bit nuts
It did.
in an artful way.
Yeah. But I mean,
You know.
he basically, at the end of it, he's fighting the ghost of his mother at the end of a 7-day purification ritual
Mhm.
after cutting off her arm.
Right.
And basically, he just loses it and winds up dying in the same grove that his wife and mother did.
Yeah.
Um,
And probably ends up in the afterlife having to.
well, who knows what happens to him, because he kind of died of his own volition, more or less.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way it falls apart is it's kind of like how the guy in the first story in Quite On, he goes back to his wife and finds out she's dead, and he just kind of loses his mind as he gets closer and closer to the perimeter of the compound,
Yeah.
and then just turns to dust and ash. And it's kind of like that. It's this concept that I've just been with my dead wife, but not necrophiliism. How do I deal with that? Oh, I can't. And it just breaks his
madness.
mind. Yeah, it just breaks their mind. And the amazing thing is, he was pretty much willing to roll with it as long as he could.
Mhm.
Like, oh, well, okay, you're ghosts, but you are the ghosts of my family, so let's see how this plays out.
Yeah.
And, you can't really blame him.
Mhm.
But yes, having to fight the ghost of your mother while she's trying to reclaim her cat arm
Say
would
that
mess you.
again. Say that again.
Fighting the ghost of your mother who has come back to reclaim her cat arm that you cut off of her probably isn't going to leave you in the greatest state of mind.
I
Just
love the fact that
spitballing
you had
on
to
that
say
one.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love the fact that you
I-
had to say that.
I love the fact that there is a reason for me to say that and not
Right.
have it be completely non sequitur.
And no further explanation is needed, really. 'Cause
No,
it's just-
no, no. That's it.
Yeah.
This picture is it's a masterclass in atmosphere.
It is.
And
Well, a lot of Japanese films are.
oh yeah, and this, I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's scary, but it's
It's
creepy.
scary. It's scary in concept.
It's creepy as fuck.
Mhm.
It's more creepy than it is scary, because if you really think
White
about it,
Adam's like that.
yeah, exactly. It's more creepy. There's no. I'm not a jump
Only
scare.
Baba's like that.
Yeah. Onibaba's like a really, really slow burn. Like, nothing really happens
is.
until like the last half hour, and then the last half hour is just batshit crazy.
I love that.
It was
I love
really
that.
good.
I love
It was
that about
really
it.
good. Yeah. But yeah, the way that he shoots the gates and everything, the lack of detail to a lot of the sets is how you can kind of tell that it's on a soundstage. When they're outside, you get the fog, you get this darkness, you get
The forest does look like a soundstage. You do sense that. It's, come to think of it, but yeah.
yeah.
I see what you're saying.
They the Japanese elevated soundstage filmmaking to an art that no one has ever equaled. in the 60s and 70s. There's one that I want to do with you that I'm pretty sure you haven't seen, called The Ballad of Narayama, which is it's about an elderly woman. This town, when their elderly reaches 70, they take a trip up to this mountain so that they can sit and die up on this mountain. They've outlived their usefulness, and that's just their culture. The whole thing is shot on a soundstage, but they frequently climb a mountain and go in all sorts of, and you can't tell. It's the absolute perfection of it's everything that when you see Munchkin Land in the Wizard of Oz, and it does that panning shot, and you see all the very bright shiny plastic foliage.
You can just practically see the technicians running off the set. Yeah.
It's a vastly different technique and discipline in Japan, and that would be worth looking at, I think, in general. Is just how they did what they did inside. It's really impressive. But yeah, the whole atmosphere is just creepy, and you're never really afraid for Ginto's life. You don't. You Gintaki. I'm sorry.
Like a revenge thriller, you're sitting there and you know what's going on, and you want to see it happen, but there's a lot more to it.
Right. My biggest fear in it was, will they ultimately choose their oath over their love?
Yeah. And
that's not a normal kind of a thriller tension kind of a dynamic. You're usually not like, well, will they choose the one they love, or will they choose the oath they've taken? It's, are they going to kill this guy or not? There's a lot more to it here, and that balancing act, that will they be so compelled by their vow that they have to do what they're compelled to do it. That's the morality in that, because yes, they are revenging against samurai, and I guess you're just not allowed to pick and choose which ones.
Yeah,
it's samurai or it's nothing.
But who lays the rules? Who's
probably the god of evil that set their terms.
It's like who's pulling the strings?
Because remember, demons and devils are all about terms and conditions.
Yeah, true. Contracts.
Yeah. So, I mean, terms and conditions of this, you're allowed to walk around not in hell, is you got to kill samurai and drink their blood. You don't do that, even if you just find one that you let go. You broke the contract. You broke the rules, and now you have to go out.
And contracts always have fine print and loopholes and double meanings, and it's a double-edged sword.
Exactly. So that's what I find most fascinating about specifically this, is the it's more of an emotional thriller than it is a ratchet up the tension kind. Yeah, right, exactly. It's not tension through action, it's tension through emotion, and that's not something the West has ever really gotten a handle on. And I love that kind of that intellectual ambiguity of how will they process this, what will become more important to them, and what will happen when they make that choice.
Yeah.
And
what will become of them?
Right.
What are the ramifications, and how do they get themselves in a position at which they, based on the terms of the pact that they've made, What are they allowed to do? What are they not allowed to do? How are they? It's a weird, like I say, it's a weird double-edged
Oh
sword.
yeah, and when you think about the mother's offer, she tells him what happened to his wife, why he hasn't seen her. And she says, if you just come back to the house and read me a sutra, a prayer, then I'll be able to go, and I'll just go down to hell with your wife. I'll leave this plane. But you and he has no idea if that's exactly what she's going to do, or if she's going to kill him.
Right.
Luring him back there to make the kill. And he doesn't know either, and his fear gets the best of him, and he attacks her. What could have ended peacefully doesn't, but there was no guarantee that it was going to in the first place.
Right.
There's no guarantees in a movie like, in a story like this, and that's what I love the most about it.
The rules, the borders, the lines are erased, but they're still grounded in the rules of the world in which they exist. Like you say, the contracts and all of that stuff. That's why you always say in horror films, that's why Roger Ebert was fond of saying, in horror films you have to have rules. And you have to have some kind of established rule. Otherwise the movie is just batshit that's flying all over the place. This movie has a lot of rules.
Yeah.
And the creative thing is you wonder, are they going to be broken, or are they going to, what's going to happen?
Right. How important are these rules to these characters? Will they willingly go against them? Will they unwittingly go against them? Will they actively do everything they can to not? It's all
right.
It's all very fascinating stuff, and it's stuff that you don't get even in contemporary Asian horror. Because a lot of that's been westernized. So I really like going back to these kind of simpler, we're not going to give you a lot of blood, but we're going to give you a moral.
It's a lot of concept.
It's a moral horror story. Yeah, concept terror,
and
moral
concept
horror.
terror. Yeah.
And,
a lot of people can't handle concept terror.
Yeah, concept terror. I like it as moral terror. So it's kind of like what your morality is going to lead you to,
like
and
moral
how
terror. Yeah,
moral
that
terror.
Sounds about right.
So that's what a lot of these are, and I love those balancing acts. The maybe we can live in peace with these spirits instead of we've got to get rid of them no matter what.
Right.
It's always fascinating to me, and I love watching these. And again, there will likely be another one next year, until I run out of them. Well, until Japanese history
You'll never
runs
run
out of them. I know, that's my joy. You got anything else for us?
That's it.
That's all I got too. What do we have coming up?
Next week is my first choice for Shocktober.
And it's a doozy.
A unfairly maligned batshit thriller that got lost in the summer of 1985. It was Tobe Hooper's follow-up to Poltergeist. It is called Life Force.
I don't know how... I don't know how unearned The Overlooking was. It's a weird movie. I've seen it twice now, and I'll probably watch it again. Life Force is a damn weird movie.
It's a damn weird movie, but at the same time, you're also sitting there kind of fascinated by it because it's made by an American studio KANE. It's directed by an American from Texas, Toby Hooper, but it's mostly British.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a British sensibility. It almost feels like a Hammer film.
It does. And
in the fact that it talks a lot.
It does talk a lot. It talks an awful lot.
But the only thing anybody ever remembers about this movie is this naked ballet star.
Who's ridiculously gorgeous. Look.
It spends the entire movie unclothed. The only time you're ever surprised is when she puts her clothes back on.
Yeah. And I have to say that specifically the first time watching it, I had trouble not rooting for her because hot naked chick going around England killing lecherous white men really doesn't seem to have a downside to me.
Right.
Call me what you will, but I kind of was siding with her on that one. Although it was odd when they found the spaceship and it was just basically a ship full of Minox.
I mean, right? Right? So what do we got after that?
After that is my second pick, and I'm sticking with my other tradition of going with something pretty lighthearted. I've done Shaun of the Dead in the past and a couple of others. I have chosen Taika Waititi's brilliant What We Do in the Shadows, the original film that has spawned 2 spin-off series. One of them is called What We Do in the Shadows on FXX, which is equally brilliant. It's a hilarious, amazing show if you haven't seen it. And there's another spin-off called...
If you know what Taika Waititi, you already know what to expect.
Exactly. The other one that spun off of it is called Wellington Paranormal, and it's this little police precinct in Wellington, New Zealand, who get pulled in to do supernatural cases. They have no reason to be doing this, and they're not the smartest police in the world. It's hilarious. You can find that on HBO Max, actually. The first 2 seasons, I think 2 or 3 seasons. So that's my second pick. I love What We Do in the Shadows. It's just hilarious. I love everything.
Then we're going to end Shocktober with a psychological thriller. Bizarre psychological thriller.
Yeah.
Starring Anthony Hopkins as a very fragile man whose mind is taken over by his ventriloquist dummy.
Yeah.
Who looks just like him.
Yeah, I may end up watching that one today. I'm not sure.
It's called Magic. It is sweating. 1978. It's amazing. It's directed by Richard Attenborough, and was the last film he directed before Gandhi.
Yeah. So lots of things will fall into place, I'm sure, with wondering how he got to Gandhi. So this is a crucial step.
I'll tell you this. You haven't seen the movie yet.
Not yet.
There is a seed in the movie. Because the movie is not supernatural. It's not supernatural at all. It's all psychological. There is a scene in the movie where Ed Lauder finds the dummy. And Richard Attenborough chooses a shot of this dummy that is the scariest damn thing you've ever seen in your life. And there's no supernatural involved.
Great.
Literally. It is the scariest thing you've ever seen.
Because old dolls and ventriloquist dummies aren't scary enough on their own.
Not scary enough.
Well,
I saw this scene and I was watching it one night and I saw this scene. I was like, ah! I scared my dog to death.
Let's make the person with attested fears of both dolls and clowns and things like that. Let's give it to him to watch. Let's do that. Like, fuck you. We'll see how that goes. And then of course we transition into Turkey Month, which we will talk about more later, because we don't want to give away any of the spoiled goods.
Turkey Month, we only talk about bad movies, and all I can say about it is, the movies I've seen.
Oh. Well, I've only picked one so far, and it's a humdinger.
So have I. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, I'm just hoping it makes you cry, because it's it's bad. That about wraps it up here for us at the Pod Bay Doors podcast. You can find all of our back episodes at the podbaydorspodcast.wordpress.com. You can listen to us on iTunes and YouTube. Hit the like, subscribe, and the notifications. Make sure you get all of that. You can find us on Twitter at pod_bay. Copy and paste that over to Patreon, where we have several patron-only episodes. One is a really old one. This is Avengers Infinity War from way back. But we've had two more recent ones. We've got Star Trek the Motion Picture.
The slow motion picture.
And our 200th episode, revisit of Citizen Kane, which was a damn fun episode to record. So we've got that going on. Got a lot coming up. We thank you very much for joining us, and the Pod Bay doors are now closed.
The mission has been completed.
Little Benny had a cat that they wouldn't let him keep. So he put her up for sale at a price he thought was cheap. He took her to a neighbor to ask him for advice. He said, "Just leave the kitty here. She'll help me with the mice." But the cat came back. She wouldn't stay away. She was sitting on the porch the very next day. The cat came back. She didn't want to roam. The very next day it was home sweet home. Little Benny met a man who was driving way out west. He would give the cat a ride as a special honored guest. The steering wheel was wobbly. He drove into a tree. The car was just a total wreck, as anyone could see. But the cat came back. She wouldn't stay away. She was sitting on the porch the very next day. The cat came back. She didn't want to roam. The very next day it was home sweet home. Then he bought a gun from the human cannonball. He put the cat inside and tried nitro-toluol. When Benny pulled the trigger, the cannon made a roar. The neighbors all surrendered because they thought it was a war. But the cat came back. She wouldn't go away. She was sitting on the porch the very next day. The cat came back. She didn't want to roam. The very next day it was home sweet home. Last verse, here we go. Little Benny gave the cat to a man who had a bomb. Took the cat away, she was acting cool and calm. And then the bomb exploded, it made an awful sound. They looked and looked for ages and the man was never found. But the cat came back, she wouldn't stay away. She was sitting on the porch the very next day. The cat came back, she didn't want to roam. The very next day it was home sweet home. Very nice. Woof woof. Meow.